This is just a forewarning for anyone who's about to watch this episode. It is really chaotic and maybe not the best, but maybe you'll enjoy it. Maybe it's entertaining. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Recreating Recipes from Culinary School, and today I will be making basically an apple pie, which kind of kicks off the fall season. It's still really hot in Korea right now. We're having this random heat wave, and so it's been in like the low mid 30s Celsius. So Fahrenheit would be, it's still in the 90s. But kind of working with the season here, the next recipe is a apple pie. So we are doing a flaky pie dough and a apple filling. To be quite honest, I'm not a huge fan of cooked fruit. It's a texture thing for me, so I don't really enjoy it. But I haven't made a pie like this in a really long time, so I am going to use a traditional pie dish, and then I'm going to do the lattice on top. I'm not really quite sure how I want to do the crust on this, but maybe I'll just do the little peaks on the side like you would normally see, but we'll see once I get there. But I have all of my mise en place out. I do have some water and the shortening and the butter in the fridge because it does need to be cold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut up my apples first, and then we'll start on the dough and then do the filling. So without further ado, let's get started. So because it is the beginning of apple season, I just got this from the fruit stand in front of our house. But these apples are quite big. The full recipe calls for 7 to 8 apples. I actually don't even know if I'm gonna use all of them, but I am gonna cut 3 just in case. So we'll see if I end up using them all. Ooh! Stay. I really love using a peeler, and I hate using a peeler at the same time because sometimes, depending on the apple, like the rigidness and how smooth it is, it can be easy and sometimes it's not. Okay. Okay, so apples are all cut. The recipe calls for sugar, salt, some cinnamon. It also says nutmeg. I don't actually have nutmeg, so I'm just going to stick with cinnamon. I have some lemon juice. The recipe said butter, but it didn't say for it to be melted, which makes no sense to me if we were just putting in unmelted butter. So I melted it. This is just kind of what I think makes sense. So I melted the butter. I have some cornstarch here. This is going to help thicken up any of the juices that come out while it's baking. So this the recipe told me to add water to this and do it as like a slurry. I don't know if I'm going to do that. I think I might just add the water in separately. I mean, maybe I should do that. I should stick with the recipe, right? I'm not good at following directions. Let me rephrase that. I am not good at following directions if I think that the directions are not correct. Um, or if there are unnecessary steps in there. So let me add the beginning stuff first, and then we'll add the cornstarch in after. Every time I see gloves like this, it just makes me feel like I'm gonna make kimchi. This is like apple kimchi. Okay, so let's add the salt in. I'm adding in my butter and lemon juice. So I'm gonna mix this in. I feel like there should be brown sugar in this recipe. I wonder, a part of me wants to add the brown sugar in, but I don't want to add too much sugar. I already added the sugar that it said to add. So this is an interesting recipe. I have another apple recipe from one of the hotels I used to work at, and it was not like this. Okay, so I have to make my slurry. Honestly, I'm just gonna eyeball this. So I'm adding in the cornstarch and well, if I do this wrong, then I do this wrong, right? Is that an ounce of water? Maybe that's too much. I don't like that much. Okay. And then we'll mix this in. Maybe it's because I don't like apple pie, which is weird. You know, I used to like apple pie a lot when I was younger. Okay, we're gonna add some cinnamon. Oh, that doesn't look like it's enough. I'm gonna add more. Oops. Okay. So we're gonna get started on the flaky pie dough. The recipe calls for pastry flour, salt, water, butter, and shortening. I'm gonna take out the butter and shortening last minute. But the sugar says that it's optional, and I'm not sure why. My guess is so that it can be universal. Like if you're going to use this pie dough for a quiche versus an apple pie, that's my guess. So I'm assuming it's more there for sweetness than anything else. It doesn't really serve. Well, I guess sugar mainly, that's the purpose for the sweetness. But I actually omitted it out because I don't know how much this recipe is gonna make. I did do a 3/4 recipe. The full recipe says that it's supposed to be able to do, what do they call it? A double crust, 2 double crust pies. So, meaning that it can cover the bottom as well as the top. So I don't know how much I'm gonna need, is it depending on what I end up doing for the top. But if there's any left over, I am gonna make a quiche with that crust. Yeah, so I need to measure out my water. I really would like to be so much more excited about this. I think it's because I'm not. Maybe I'll change my mind today. Who knows? When I was younger, I used to love apple pies. I love the apple pie from McDonald's. And I don't know if it's because that was one of the sweet things my mom let me have. That was like a dessert that, and generally we didn't eat dessert. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe my mind will change today. We shall see. Okay, I'm gonna go grab the butter and shortening. I had to pop it in the fridge because I keep my shortening out at room temperature. I didn't have it in the fridge, but I have my butter unsalted and shortening here. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so we have our flour and salt. With this, I'm not worried about sifting it. And again, this is the biscuit cut-in method. So we are adding the butter, and shortening straight to the flour. And then we want it to, sorry if that was loud. We want it to have that nice crumbly texture. Okay. Okay, so it's looking something like this. I am going to keep this one a little more crumbly, just because it is a pie dough. I don't know, we'll just see. And then I'm going to add my water. Okay. So I actually didn't use all of my water. I'm going to mix the rest of this by hand. But the reason why I didn't add in the rest of the water is because I saw that the dough was no longer absorbing any more water. So I'm just gonna leave the rest of it out. I don't want this dough to be too wet. It's already quite nice and soft. So I have half of the dough here that I'm gonna roll, and I'm actually gonna go ahead and put the other half in the fridge because this is gonna be the dough that I'm gonna lattice on top. Should I lattice it? Yeah, let's do the traditional pie look. So I'm gonna throw this in the fridge so that it has time to cool down. So when I lattice, it's a lot easier for me to work with the dough. I think most people use flour to roll it out, which is correct. But personally, I just like to put 2 pieces of parchment on top of one another. And then that way I don't have to use any extra flour, which is not a bad thing, but it's just a preference I have. Wait. Okay. The recipe said for the pie, the crust to be 4 millimeters thick. To be 100% honest, I have no idea how thick that is. Okay. I would say that's thick enough, right? Okay. This also, when you use parchment, it makes transferring the dough a lot easier. I wonder if I left the pieces of butter a little bit too big, but we're gonna experiment. Okay, in retrospect, I should have definitely let this cool down in the fridge before I placed it on. But you know what? We're making errors here. And luckily the dough is soft enough that the parts that kind of ripped up, I could just mold back. And for the rigid ends, I'll just press them in. The recipe did say to par bake this, so I am going to throw this in the fridge, let it set before I throw it into the oven. Good? Okay, and then I am going to throw it in the fridge. Realize that I just filmed the last one in slow motion. So, I will get this. I will get it. Okay, so the the crust has come out of the fridge. It's all nice and cool now. I just scored the bottom a couple of times, and generally you would use pie weights or beans. I don't have either of those, so I am going to go ahead and place the bottom of my tart shell and then place that on top. I was thinking maybe I should put parchment down, but we are just par baking this, so it's only going to be in there for about 10-15 minutes. So yeah, we're experimenting and we'll see what happens. Alrighty. Okay, so little update. The tray was a bad idea. So I'm gonna try to get it out and salvage it. Okay, not terrible, not great, but if I am learning anything from this series is that it is very much humbling myself. But also as a reminder, even if I've done this for so many years, well, okay, the culinary world is very big. So the pastry world, just within itself, there's so many different specialties you can get into. You can become a cake decorator. You can become a pastry chef at a hotel and doing plated desserts. You can work at a bakery. You can do laminated doughs. You can do baked goods. You can be a chocolatier. There's so many different avenues that you can get into. And so just because you're a pastry chef doesn't mean that you are good at every single thing. Also, when you're like me and I like to do whatever I want, some mistakes need to be made. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm gonna take it out of the oven soon. I'm still gonna go with it. I'm gonna bake it with the apples and everything. So, I think it's been about 10 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that pie crust out of the oven. Okay, so I am assuming that the mistake that I made is that I let the butter stay too chunky and I should have gotten it smaller. Which I don't know why I thought leaving the butter bigger was a good idea. Anyway, don't follow my example. But who knows? Maybe in the end, it's gonna surprise all of us and it's gonna be great. I'm gonna stick with this positivity. I mean, it's holding its shape. Is it a little fragile? Sure, yeah. Okay, so that means that I am going to mix this by hand so that butter is more mixed into the dough. Who thought that this was a good idea? Wait, that parchment is driving me crazy. Okay. I think that's pretty good. I'm going to roll this out. Oops. Okay, so how am I going to do this? Should we do a close-up of the dough? It's not awful. It's not great, but it's not bad. Okay, it looks way worse on camera. Yeah, it's not awful. Okay, yeah, it's not great. But yeah, I definitely think it's because I left the parts of the butter too chunky. Like this part of the crust feels great, but this part of the crust feels like super crumbly. So what I'm gonna do is I will put the apple into here. I'm just gonna place them somewhat evenly. I really wonder how it's gonna taste. Well, you know what? I am just gonna, there isn't that much left, so I am just gonna put all of them in. Okay. Good. Actually, that worked out perfectly. And I'll put the juices in. Okay. Normally, you would do this with a pizza cutter, but I don't have one, so I'm just gonna use a bench scraper. Okay, how thick should these be? Ooh, should we do like some thick and some thin? I honestly don't know how well I'm gonna be doing these, but we're just gonna go with it. You know what I'm saying? Okay. How close do I want to bring you guys? for this part. It's okay. We're in it for the good, the bad, all of it. This is a judgment-free zone. I hope. How are we doing this? Like here, here, and then what? Here. Oh my god, imagine this ends up being really cute. I need like scissors or something. I believe this is gonna be super cute. We will see what happens. I also don't remember the last time I did this, so I think I'm gonna lift these like this, right? And then I'll place this here, like that, right? Sure. Okay, and then what? And then a thick one? Sure. Okay, so I lift these, right? It's cute, right? I don't know. Okay, we're not dead yet. Forget about, you know, the monstrousness at the bottom. I feel like the sides are a little too empty. But I don't know what I want to do here. Do I just wrap around a piece or pieces? We'll just take the scraps and place it on. Sure, why not? Okay, my only question is now, do I press it down with a fork? Where's my fork? Is that cute? Sure. It kind of looks like a what is it? Am I supposed to put this in the fridge? See, this is what happens when you should be reading directions and you actively choose not to. I've yet to decide how cute this is. I think it's cute. This is also pressing the pie, the top part to the bottom part. So they're, hopefully it will seal. Okay, this is the pie. I'm not gonna tilt it too much. I think it's cute. I don't know, what do you guys think? I'm going to put this in the fridge so that it can cool down the dough, and then we will throw it in the oven. I'm not sure if that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm assuming that's what I'm supposed to do. Okay, so I think that's been long enough, aka I'm starting to get impatient. Where's my brush? Okay. I didn't follow the really the recipes. I can't even speak. I didn't even really follow it correctly anyway, so why start now? Okay. Here goes nothing. Okay. Not too shabby. It's looking pretty nice. Okay, so while we're waiting for that to cool down, I just wanted to take a look at the recipe. Let's see how many things I did accurately and inaccurately. Let's see. Okay, so place in refrigerator for at least 4 hours. Definitely didn't do that. 4 hours, that's too long. We don't have time for that. Okay, so I did half of it right. And it did say for flaky dough until fat particles are the size of peas or hazelnuts. And I did have them hazelnut size. Right? Hazelnuts are like this. Okay, maybe they were a little bit bigger than hazelnuts. Maybe I'm a liar. I don't know, it's pretty good. Okay, so it says, I did do the lattice correctly. It does say use mealy dough for bottom crust. Mealy dough absorbs less liquid than flaky dough does. It's too late, I already made it. In case there's a soggy bottom. So we'll see if there's a soggy bottom. Okay, so I didn't really follow the recipe, but I used the correct method. Yeah, I think it's pretty spot on. Okay, so I am not mad at all with how this ended up turning out. The bottom of the crust definitely what looked a little more unfortunate, but it looks pretty good. Smells good. I definitely think that maybe for the apple pie, instead of the lattice, I could have just covered the whole thing. That way the top apples wouldn't have dried out so much. But yeah, I had it in the oven for about 45 minutes. I let the entire crust get really golden because I like for it to be really flaky and crispy. And so, yeah, I'm gonna let this cool down for a little bit and then I'll give it a taste. I wish I had vanilla ice cream to eat with it. I think it would have been really good, but ooh, I have whipped cream. I do need to make whipped cream for something else that I'm going to be making. So maybe I'll just have it with the whipped cream. I think that'll be good. Okay, so I am not a huge fan, again, of cooked fruit, so I'm just going to do a small slice here. The crust sounds good. I don't think this is going to be... Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. That came out great. Ah. It's hot. Okay, so that's that. It's fine. It's fine. And I made some whipped cream. Bon appetit. Okay, I'm gonna get some cream, some apple, and some crust. The crust is actually pretty good. Really buttery, really flaky. The apples, good consistency. I think the only thing I would say is I think I would add brown sugar in next time instead of only granulated sugar. The apples don't have, and maybe it's just the apples that I use, but they don't have a lot of flavor. I think with the brown sugar, it would be a lot better because then they could caramelize. And so I think that there would be a better flavor. But that crust is pretty nice. Okay. Not bad. Considering how this all started, not bad. For the apple pie recipe for both the flaky crust and the filling, I will put it in the description below. If you do try it out, please let me know what your thoughts are about it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.